If you're in the Salesforce DevOps world, you know this headache, that constant nagging feeling of trying to keep all your different environments in sync. It's a grind, it's painful, and it slows everybody down. Well, today, we're diving into a much smarter way to get things done. And this quote, it just nails it, doesn't it? It's that sinking feeling you get in your stomach, that panic when you think, am I about to lose hours of work? Or even worse, oh no, here we go again with the merge conflicts. If you've been there, you know exactly what we're talking about.
So, let's really break down this super common problem. We call it the developer's dilemma, and it all starts with developers working in their own little bubbles. I mean, picture this. You've got a whole team of developers, right? And each one is building their own little piece of a giant puzzle. They're laser-focused on their own user stories, cranking out great code. The only problem, they're basically doing it blindfolded. They have no real idea how their piece is going to fit with what everyone else is building.
And here's where things get messy. It's not until they try to promote their code to a higher environment, like UAT, that they finally get to see the whole picture. So what happens when their puzzle piece just doesn't fit? What if it totally clashes with the code that's already living there?
This image is the perfect example. Let's say a developer builds this awesome blue rocket feature in their sandbox. But when they go to promote it, they find out there's already a red rocket in the higher environment. The component is there, but somebody else has already changed it. And welcome to a classic, super frustrating merge conflict.
So here's the kicker. To move forward, that developer has to sync up with the higher environment. But honestly, that's terrifying. The biggest fear is that if they pull down that red rocket, their own blue rocket, all that uncommitted work-in-progress code, is just going to get wiped out. Gone.
And this isn't just one developer's problem. Oh no, it snowballs, and fast. Pretty soon it becomes a massive issue for the entire team, a problem we call org drift. And this is the chaos that follows. Your developers are stuck, basically frozen, because they're afraid to sync. This absolutely buries the release managers who are now trying to juggle deployments while putting out fires and resolving everyone's conflicts. The end result? Business progress just stops. Features get delayed, deadlines are missed, and the old-school fixes, like a full sandbox refresh. That's the nuclear option. It just wipes out everything. It's a vicious cycle, right? The longer you wait, the more out of sync things get, and the more painful that merge is going to be.
Everyone is just stuck in the mud. But it really doesn't have to be this way. What if there was a way to sync your environments without all that fear? A way to focus on actually building cool stuff instead of just managing chaos?
Well, that better way is here. It's Kapato's Environment Sync, and it was designed from the ground up to solve this exact problem. Okay, let's do a quick compare and contrast. The old way, classic back promotions, means you're manually cherry-picking individual stories to sync backwards. And if one file has a conflict that touches, say, 30 stories, you're resolving that same conflict 30 times. Ugh! With Environment Sync, you just pick a point in time and it syncs everything before it. You resolve a conflict for a file just once. Plus, you can sync from any environment you want, not just the one right above you. Now, this is a really important point. Environment Sync doesn't replace classic back promotions. They actually work together. Classic is still perfect for a quick hotfix, but Environment Sync, it's a powerhouse for those bigger scenarios, like when you're kicking off a new sprint and you need every single dev sandbox to be a perfect mirror of what's in production.
So how does it pull all this off? Let's get into it and break down the 3 core advantages.
First, and this is the big one, it protects your work in progress. Environment Sync is smart enough to see the changes you're working on, even if you haven't committed them to Git yet, and it carefully saves them. It doesn't just blindly overwrite your code. That core fear of losing your work, it's gone.
Second, conflict resolution gets a major upgrade. Remember that nightmare of solving the same conflict 30 times? Yeah, that's over. Here, you solve it one time, and Kapato remembers your choice for that file and applies it everywhere else it pops up during the sync. This is a massive, massive time saver.
And third, you get total flexibility. You can pick any upstream environment to be your source of truth. So if you want to spin up a brand new sandbox that's perfectly in line with what your customers are seeing live, you can sync it directly from production. No problem.
And you might be thinking, okay, this sounds complicated, but the process is incredibly simple. You just hop into the pipeline manager, you pick your destination org, then you choose your source, let's say it's production. You select a point in time, and bam, Kapato automatically grabs all the relevant user stories. Then you just click Sync Environment. Seriously, that's it.
So let's bring it all home. When you start syncing smarter, your entire team can finally start moving faster.
Okay, let's go back to our developer with the rocket problem. How does this actually solve it? Well, when they start the sync, Capado first grabs their blue rocket, their precious work in progress. Then it merges that with the red rocket from upstream and gives the developer a really clear conflict resolution screen. They get to choose exactly which pieces to keep from both versions, and they create one perfectly merged component. No work lost. And this is the dream right here. Your Salesforce sandbox and your Git branch are at long last truly in sync. What you see in your org is what's in version control. That consistency is everything. It's the foundation for a clean, reliable, and seriously fast development pipeline.
So we'll just leave you with this question to chew on. What could your team actually build? What amazing new features could you deliver with all the time and energy you'd get back from not having to manage all this chaos?